Hello, great ones. Welcome to another episode of the Live and Be Great podcast. I'm your host, spiritual psychological life coach, among other wonderful great things, Latonya McDonald. And on today's episode, I want people to have better conversations and to understand that everybody is programmed, including me. Before we start examining everybody else's programming, we have to acknowledge that everybody is programmed, including me, including you. When it comes to family, when it comes to religion, race, gender, education, trauma, professional training, relationships, media, politics, reward, and punishment. All of that plays a role in how you're being programmed and how you decide that this is what I'm going to live by. This is my belief. This is what makes me a good person. This will make me a bad person. This is what makes me smart. This is what makes me safe. This is what makes me unsafe. This is what makes me a woman. This is what makes me a man. This is what makes me a believer, right? This is what makes me a good family member, good daughter, good son, mother, father, sister, brother, cousin, uncle, aunt, grandparent, and so on and so forth. And that reward and punishment, oh my goodness, especially what you view as a punishment, that can really slip you up, because some punishments do not fit the crime. Some of them do, but some of them really, really don't, especially when it comes to how people are parented oftentimes and what different, I should say, communities experience discrimination and how they experience that discrimination. The media, if you've never been around someone that is from a particular ethnic background or culture or religion, you're just going to use what you see in the media and the selected media that is pushed to you, because you're not seeing everything. You can go look at somebody's phone right now and see what's coming up on their feed. And 9 times out of 10, there's going to be things on there that you've never seen, that is never pushed to you, different ideas about life and all these different types of programming you didn't have access to. And also, programming isn't automatically bad, because some of it protects us. Some of it becomes harmful, right? The protection part is, okay, if you put your hand in that fire, you're going to get burned. You know, some of it becomes harmful. Ooh, all black people are bad. All white people are bad. All Asian people are smart, so I don't understand. Or all Asian people don't like these type of people, or, Hispanics, they believe in this and this only. Christians. Christians are supposed to do this no matter what. Just take the abuse. Period. Be a good slave. Harmful. Some of it simply stops fitting the life we're living now. It really, really does. If you're willing to look and deprogram. And that's why I don't automatically accept, well, that's just common sense. Common to who? Right? There are so many things that I understand today that I absolutely did not always understand. You know, I'm not teaching this because I've somehow escaped programming. I know I've been programmed because I've watched my own beliefs change. And later, I'm going to give you an example where I had to look at something I had actually done and say, no, Latonya, you don't get to keep defending that just because that's what you were taught. Mm. Talk about accountability. And this is part of what working with me looks like. I'm not interested in just telling you what you should do. I want you to understand your why. Name the pattern. Look at what taught you that pattern, and then help you decide what you actually want to choose on purpose. That coaching information, if you're ready, was it will always be linked, okay? Always be linked to my episodes. So, before I decide that somebody should obviously know better, I want to know what taught them what they currently know. Before I judge the belief, I want to understand where it came from, okay? And programming is not an excuse now for bad behavior. It isn't. But I want to know, what would somebody have to had experienced, believe, survive, or be taught for this to make sense to them. Understanding the programming does not mean agreeing with it. Sometimes you're not challenging one opinion, you're threatening an entire structure that person has used to understand their life. You're threatening the entire structure that person has used to understand their life. Okay? For instance, I have relatives who may be black like me, may be a woman, and may be deeply religious. Okay? And I definitely disagree with some of their beliefs. But I can recognize that faith may currently help them get through their life because it's a lot going on. And I understand a lot of people want to hold on to something, right? I know them well enough to know certain conversations may not be something they're ready for. I've had those conversations. And you could test it too. That doesn't mean I don't test it a little bit just to see. Well, are they ready? Okay. Some of the things I just can't help. It's like, oh, listen, this is what it is. You will not pray away mental illness. Sorry. Nope, not happening. No. Okay. I might say it differently. But there's certain things that you just wait. It's becoming dangerous, you know? But their deconstruction is their journey, not something that you get to control. Sometimes love looks like knowing that I don't have to challenge every belief today. But that does change for me when that belief begins putting that person directly in danger or causing harm to somebody else. All right? I hold my loved ones accountable now. I will. My clients as well. Okay? There's no reason that I'm going to advocate for endless tolerance when you're in a situation that's damaging yourself or someone else. And that's where understanding programming, all right? My own, yes, my own, because I used to be super religious as well. Okay? I'm still black. And I can't assume that sometimes me being black and a black woman, okay, sometimes conflicts with certain religious beliefs now. It does. My freedom, my autonomy, my worth, my value. Sometimes it does conflict with that, right? But when I understand the programming, okay, when you understand that programming, the programming starts becoming discernment. Patterns matter, but individuals still have to give me evidence. All right? They do. We recognize patterns for a reason. Okay? Some people might say, all men are dangerous. Hey, we know not every single man, but if I understand the programming of men and I look at the statistics, when it comes to danger and school shootings and, sexual assault and gang violence and domestic violence and predatory behavior, misogyny. If I understand the programming, right? Can't put it past them. Can't. Still got to provide the evidence that this particular man is dangerous, but I'm going to recognize the pattern, okay? All women are turned on by someone that takes control of them and puts them in their place. Women love that. You're not all women, okay? Or, what makes you a real woman? You got to be willing to sacrifice to the end. Sacrifice your happiness, sacrifice your health for your children and your spouse and your friends and your religion and this and that and this and that. And if I understand the programming of why that woman is being abused by her pastor husband and why she won't leave, okay? Right? If I understand her programming, I can better help her. All Christians are ignorant, you know? We even say all religious people are ignorant. Atheists might say that. Or all atheists are demons, right? Understand the programming. There's a reason why each person believes what they believe. All police are bad. What did the history show my community, right? Over the years, the black community. No, not all of them, but there's a reason why I'm being told if I get pulled over, put my hands where those police can see them and don't make any sudden movements. Whether also, it's another reason why another community might even more easily, white, that's who we talking about, get pissed off and possibly step out the car and be aggressive because they had a certain privilege in this country that a lot of marginalized communities don't have. Okay? All politicians know what they're doing. No, they don't. Or all politicians have my best interests at heart just because they're with the party that my whole family has been voting for. That's not always the case. All lawyers care about the justice system and they practice what they preach because they are afraid of the law. It's not true. Programming, though, the programming would, lead you to believe that your programming of what you feel about lawyers, but it's not always the case. All doctors are right. All doctors are smart and they know everything just because they're a doctor, even though they are a neurosurgeon. right? They know everything about that island that no humans, um, not no humans, but that island that no Americans have been on. Nobody outside of that island. Nobody not native to that particular island has been able to make it on there and actually live with the people. But because that doctor is a doctor, right? They know what to tell me to go over there so I can get on the island. No. That's why we have second opinions, okay? Third opinions, you know? And not all doctors are nice and have bedside manner. They got programming too. Therapists. Not all therapists are going to know better and be empathetic. They, you would think. Huh, it's not true. And I've seen it myself when I was in school. All parents love you. Everything they do is because they love you and your parents are always right. That is not true. It's not true. All teachers care about me and my future. Not true. Teachers should know how to correct every child and have them learn. There's no reason why any of their students should be failing or acting out. Not true, because teachers are human too. But you would think, I know a lot of people think they can equate teachers to therapists and doctors. You can't. You can't, you know? So when we talk about absolutes, right? This is actually how this topic grew. How I wanted to talk about this programming, you know? Because when we speak in absolutes, I would hear this in conversation, or sometimes I would say it, right? I wouldn't say all, but I'll say like men. And sometimes you even hear some of your favorite influencers even say sometimes like, okay, I'm tired of saying this. I don't mean all, but more than likely these people part A are always going to do A, B, and C, right? So the question is this person claiming literally every individual is identical, or are they identifying programming and a pattern that matters? Okay? And if I know a group of people is being socialized in a particular way, when I gave the example of men, or I gave the example of men, or people that are religious, right? If I know that that's what they're being socialized to be, I don't have to pretend I know nothing about that socialization when I'm making a safety decision or I'm teaching people how to make a safety decision, right? The pattern will always give me information. The individual, all right, still gives me evidence, because there are atheists that still go to church, because they found a pastor that they feel safe with, you know. There are pastors that talk about astrology and they don't demonize it. They talk about numerology, the esoteric sciences. They actually confront racism and say, no, this is wrong. I don't care if this person is saying that they're a Christian. This is wrong, right? Evidence, okay? Still, check the facts on the situation. And this becomes extremely important when we're talking about toxic and abusive relationships, because what looks like common sense to the supporter, okay, may not account for the fear, financial dependence, the family programming. Oh, what did you do? And you lucky somebody even care about you like this. I wish somebody, Hmm? Oh, the religious programming? Divorce is a sin. Children. Oof. The children. I'm staying for the children. We're going to try to do whatever we're doing, not in front of the children, even though they feel everything. They always going to know something is wrong. Housing. Ooh, when I get put out. When I get put out. Relation. Oh, do we have mutual friends? Can this ruin my career? Can this ruin my reputation if I leave? Safety. Oh, I know they made threats before, but I know if I even try to leave. Attachment. Ooh, we've been through so much. We were with each other at our darkest moments. I can't just leave now. Okay? So, as you know, if you listen to the last episode, I have a book. And I definitely am taking my time and understanding and explaining programming in there, right? It's called Don't Just Tell Them to Leave, a practical guide to helping a loved one leave a toxic or abusive relationship safely. I'm creating a rating list for the book, but I don't want somebody who needs help today to have to wait for me to finish the book. So I'm putting a free first step safety resource there that you can use now. Okay? And the link will be in the episode. So if somebody you love may be in a toxic relationship, look for the link with this episode or clip, and you can join the waiting list for the Don't Just Tell Them to Leave. And you can get the free safety resource now, today. Okay? Curiosity is supposed to help me find the answer, not help me avoid the answer I don't like. Because sometimes we're asking questions because we're curious. Sometimes we're asking the same question 15 different ways because we don't like what the person already told us. Okay? The trauma is context, the childhood, the religion, the culture, the family, the fear. But eventually, the behavior gives information, you know? There's people I love. There's people I look up to. And I have had some difficulty holding a strong moral position against abuse while also having people that I know personally, some in my own family, whose histories and behavior are complicated, you know? Like, what do I do with this? And I'm a firm believer that I want to be the one to practice what I preach. But this part, you know what, y'all? I'm still working on it. Now, when it comes to danger, though, I definitely hold them accountable. I definitely do. When it comes to putting themselves in danger or somebody else in danger, yeah, you're gonna held accountable, right? Doesn't mean I love you any less. And it was interesting because there was this man that was in Charlotte punching women in the face. And me, of course, I know, hey, it's mental illness there. And you could see this long rap sheet. When I say it looked like he had hundreds of mug shots, and they just keep letting them out. He's even recording himself punching women. Okay. And the most recent victim was looking for justice. And actually, talked to the sister the sister of the abuser, and the sister did not want to come on camera, so they blurred her identity. But she straight up said, I want the victims to get justice. And I also hope that my brother gets the help that he needs. My sentiments exactly, right? Especially me being the only girl. Me being the only girl and understanding programming, because it's, I don't know, programming can get very, very tricky, right? I can't put it past every woman that they won't be abusive. I can't put it past every man that they won't be abusive. But, because I know programming, if I suspect there's any abuse in any relationship, even if it's a close friend, it's a bestie, it's my homie, girl or boy, right? I gotta look at the programming. I'm gonna look at their history, their evidence to determine what's true. I just do. It's so difficult, but you can still love them and hold them accountable, And this gets much harder when you're not talking about some stranger on the internet. Sometimes you understand exactly why somebody became who they became because you know their entire story. You was there with them 9 times out of 10. You know what happened in that house. You know what happened to them. And still, I have to ask, what does understanding that history require me to excuse? And the answer may be nothing. All right? The understanding can change how you judge, but it's not going to remove the need to just the safety of the situation, you know? When in relationship, you do have to ask, if this belief or behavior never changes, can I accept this relationship exactly as it is? Oh, yep, my daters and my future fiancés, okay, future betrothed, my courtship people that are courting, dating. Do not build a relationship around a version of somebody you're hoping enough evidence will eventually create. Don't do it. Okay? Don't. And if you work with me, I want you to know this is the kind of ethics I'm bringing into the room. I'm not going to promise that I can make somebody else change. I'm not going to tell you that if you just communicate perfectly enough, they'll become the person you need them to become. Because it ain't true all the time. It just isn't. Right? Can't guarantee that. We're going to look at the pattern, understand the why, look at the evidence, and get clear about what belongs to you to choose. Okay? If I enter the conversation assuming only you can be wrong, I'm not practicing critical thinking. Hmm. And so so the hard conversations, these tough conversations, all right, that people feel like they need to have. Are you actually ready? Okay. Am I actually willing to discover that I'm wrong? Am I trying to understand, or am I trying to win? Okay, I say that with my couples too now. I say that with the couples. Mm, yeah. Am I bringing evidence for clarity or using evidence like ammunition? Okay. Now, if it's going to be a debate, you got every right, but this is not. You're not on the stage. You ain't getting paid for this. It's not a competition, that you studied for. All right. Do you actually want, real change? Do you actually want to have a true conversation? Okay. But let me tell you about this now. Because my Mount St. Mary's University educational experience, all right, And my understanding of psychology, authority, education, and expertise, this right here, became even more complicated because, I experienced a significant amount of harm mentally in this profession. Okay. My experiences, it definitely, how can I say this? I realized that the person teaching you can also be programmed. Okay. The degree, the institution, the theory, or the professional title does not make somebody culturally neutral or incapable of bias. And if you've been with me for a while, you know about this experience at Mount St. Mary's. You do. Okay. And this was for the psychology degree. This is where you become a therapist now. Right? My conclusion isn't that, experts don't know anything. It's expertise should give me information. It should not require me to surrender my ability to ask questions. Even with me, y'all, as smart as I know I am, I know I'm a genius, but it shouldn't remove your ability to ask questions. It shouldn't. For what? And that goes for religion, politics, medicine, psychology, education, everything else. Okay? Everything else we spoke about as far as these power dynamics that are included in our programming. One of the questions I've learned to ask is, who taught the person who's teaching me? Ooh, yeah, because listen here, listen here, listen here. Right? Because if the head is a mess, so will the body. That's how that works right there. And then what were they programmed to believe? I'm gonna have another book after this book, and it's gonna deal with healthcare while being Black, because people need enough knowledge to ask medical professional questions, because because of those power dynamics and our beliefs around our programming around authority, people really feel like they can't ask questions. Some people don't even go to the doctor because of this. They don't feel like they're smart enough, or they're going to be taken seriously, and that they just need to figure it out on their own. They might have even had something happen to them based off of negligence. They may put too much trust when they feel something, wait a minute, something is off with what they're diagnosing me with. Okay? But there's another reason being wrong can be so difficult. Yep. Sometimes being wrong changes the story we have been telling ourselves about our own past. Shame says, if I was wrong, I must be a bad person. Accountability says, now that I know more, what am I going to do? That new information that you have, it may force somebody to reconsider what happened to them. Were they abused but didn't see it as abuse in the beginning? Something they did. Something they permitted. Being an innocent bystander. How they parented. That's something. How they parented. Who they supported. That part. And what they defended. And example is sometimes language. For example, consent. Talk about, intoxication, being under the influence. And sometimes people have liquid courage. They go after the things that they think they want. And sometimes people they can't really determine when they're under the influence if they actually want this particular thing. So consent is what I'm getting at. You may both be intoxicated. Both have gotten intimate while you were intoxicated, but did you actually consent? Either of you. And how does that make you feel? It's different. The laws are different, but that term wasn't always uh as public and as enforced as it is today. And can I say it's fully enforced? I would say it's enforced a bit more than it was in the past. It truly is. So you may have the best intentions, think, okay, it's perfectly fine to do this. You know what? Is that I actually need to do this in order to get the courage to go and get what I want. But what does that interpretation look like now that you know better? Okay. So I told you earlier that I can show you better than I can tell you. So let me put myself inside this conversation. Okay. So in the past, when I was younger, I definitely participated in spanking my nieces and nephews. And at the time, I was operating from my own programming around discipline because my nieces and nephews were actually pretty close in age. So they're kind of like younger siblings to me because I'm the youngest in my family. And my oldest nephew is only 10 years um, younger than me. My oldest brother is 13 years older than me, right? So you can see those interesting dynamics. But I also experienced things myself that shaped how I interpreted that behavior, you know? And later in my education and my reflection and conversations and understanding trauma changed what I believed. It changed it. I went from saying, telling my boyfriend at the time, I feel like he skipped boyfriend and went straight to fiance. But anyways, I was telling him if we ever have children, don't let me hit them. It went from don't let me hit them to we not hitting our kids. Period. We're gonna find another way. And this is vast knowledge that I was able to get from different cultures, different ethnicities, not just my own, different social economic backgrounds. 'Cause that also plays a role in the deprogramming of what you think you know about somebody else's background versus actually experiencing it on multiple occasions over and over and over again till you have evidence, right? Now, when I got to understanding, hey, you know what, this isn't right, and now I'm completely against corporal punishment, I could have easily, before deciding to change, said, well, everybody did it. That's how we were raised. I loved them. I wasn't trying to traumatize anybody. But intention wasn't the whole question. I eventually, you know what? I apologize. I had to acknowledge. I said, listen, Auntie is sorry. I know what you've gone through as a child. I know your experience. I know what's happened to you. And that's not what love is supposed to look like, regardless. Regardless. And I said, I know one of my nephews was like, well, Auntie, I was bad. No, 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 no. You needed love. You need somebody to talk to. You need somebody that had patience, you know? And regardless of whether I knew better back then or not, because I didn't, I'm committed to never repeating that again or defending it. I'm not going to laugh at that. It's not funny to me. It just isn't. I'm not going to joke with anybody else doing that to their children. And call them out and tell them to stop and let them know Hey, I don't need to pretend that I've always been the person teaching against corporal punishment because I wasn't. My change becomes more credible when I'm willing to tell you where I had to change. And I tell them every single time where I had to change. Even clients, who come to me with that, don't even have children yet, ready to just repeat the same toxic behavior, you know? That's why when somebody comes to work with me, I'm not expecting them to arrive already having perfect language and perfect beliefs. What matters to me is, are we willing to look? Are we willing to look, right? Another thing, your past has witnesses. So let your present behavior become the evidence of your growth. All right. So when I say your past has witnesses, people remember you. I know my nieces and nephews probably like, she's mean auntie. She's only auntie for a while, but she mean auntie, right? Or I don't, Tanya ain't even call me auntie because we're so close in age. It was Tanya. But people remember what you said. People remember what you did. Your past, you got witnesses. So someone may have been affected about, the version. Somebody may have been affected by the version of you that no longer exists. Okay? For instance, some people could leave that red pill ideology, but still have red pill assumptions embedded in their language. It can happen. They can say, I'm done with it, but the programming is still there. Someone can consciously neglect racism, right? While still discovering racist assumptions or microaggressions because Mount St. Mary's over there, okay? Even though we were in a culturally competence class, right? When it came to the black students, nobody cared. And there was evidence. There's always evidence when you know that there's a disconnect. There's always evidence right in your face. And I always talk about I wanted to say what was happening in 2016, 2015, 2017, around that time with racist racial and unjust, right? And incidences was happening around the same time as the Post nightclub shooting. The same time, the current president was talking about build a wall, and people were worried about their immigration. The immigrants and the LGBTQ at the Christian university, okay, they got all types of resources and emails, and we're here for you. The black students, not a thing. Not a thing, even though the people protesting outside. People got to leave class to go see Lady Gaga and I think Elton John sing for support of the Post nightclub LGBTQ shooting, right? LGBTQ club shooting. And they should have been. Everybody, immigrants, people was worried about their immigration, had a lot of Hispanics, and Asians and, people from different countries, immigrants that went to our school. They should have been. Everybody should get support. But when it came to our stuff happening around the same exact time, nobody, mums was the word, okay? At a place that was supposed to feel it in a degree, in a program that was supposed to feel it first. They didn't, okay? Someone can become more feminist while still reflexively using degrading language towards women, okay? Just saying. Sometimes the conscious belief changes before all of the automatic programming catches up. And that's why I'm not asking anybody to be perfect, because perfection is not the goal, you know? But what happens when somebody points it out? They may get defensive. Are they curious? Is there accountability? Is there repair? Or is there a continued pattern? Is there genuine behavioral movement? If somebody reminds me of something I did before I changed, my growth doesn't give me the right to rewrite what they experienced. They don't, okay? They're not always, some people not there yet, okay? Enlightened one, wait for them to catch up. Give them that grace, you know? Give them that grace to catch up to where, okay, well, I use people pronouns now. Okay? And they say they got a child that's trans, but they still ain't using the pronouns. Listen, wait for them to catch up. Work on that behavior. You know? It's always gonna be, I can show you better than I can tell you. You know? And if I'm the one, if I turn it around on you, if I'm the one that is bringing up your past, I got to check myself too. Okay? Am I saying this looks inconsistent with what you say you believe? Can we look at that? Right? Or you could say, you were wrong once, therefore I get to permanently define you by it. Don't do the latter. Okay? Just don't. Eventually, we've got to take all this context and all this evidence and actually decide what we're going to do. In sidebar, when I was talking about Mount St. Mary's, listen, I went and we fought. Okay, got the black students together, went and we fought for them to recognize us. Okay? Because we understood the programming and they didn't realize that their programming was as a whole was microaggressive and as if, black people been dealing with racism their whole entire lives. They should be used to it. No need to say anything. They're strong. That's what it was coming across as to me. It was very hurtful, it was very painful. But that didn't stop the conversation. Right? Conversation. If you say you're going to be a culturally competent program, okay, that is supportive of all cultures, ethnicities, all the differences of the many staff and students that you have, I want you to show me. Don't just tell me, okay? Understanding someone's programming gives me context. What they do with that new information gives me evidence, okay? Be seen. Say whatever you got to say out loud. Be honest about where you actually are, not where you think entitled people are supposed to be, not where you want people to think you are. Name the pattern. What's happening repeatedly? What are you assuming? What are you demonstrating? What programming might be operating? Is there a broader safety pattern worth respecting? Understand the why. Where did this come from? What were you taught? What were they taught? What happened? What did the belief once protect? What don't you know yet? Choose on purpose. Now that I have more information, what am I going to do? Have another conversation. Wait. Accept that they're not ready. Change your mind. Let them change theirs. Give an appropriate opportunity. Set a boundary. Change the relationship. Leave. Repair. Apologize. Or simply accept the answer. And then live and be great. You're not supposed to spend your entire life endlessly deconstructing yourself. Eventually, the knowledge has to help you live. What do I call common sense that I've never actually questioned? Who taught me that? What evidence would genuinely make me change my mind? When I challenge somebody, am I trying to understand them or defeat them? What does their programming explain? And what does their behavior still require me to acknowledge? Am I evaluating who this person is, or am I building a relationship with who I hope they'll become? If nothing about this person changes, am I willing to choose this relationship? And if I discover I'm wrong, what am I prepared to do differently? Reflect on those questions. If the way I approach this conversation matters to you, all right, that's also what you can expect from me, okay? If the way I approach this conversation matters to you, that's also what you can expect from me. This is where I believe this episode kind of gave you a little secret. Exposed that, as to why people keep coming back and referring me, right? If you're thinking about working with me, I actually hope this episode gave you a better idea of the person you're deciding whether to trust. And if ever we're working together and you don't trust me, all right, let's talk about it. Or if I don't make you feel safe, right, we can always talk about it, because you got to feel safe in order for me to help you. If you don't, we got to find you somebody else. I will help you. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to look for the pattern. I'm going to want to understand your why. I'm going to respect your autonomy. I'm going to stay open to information. And I'm also not going to pretend accountability doesn't matter. If that is the kind of support you're looking for, my coaching information is linked with this episode. And if you're listening because somebody you love may be in a toxic or abusive relationship, I am also working on my upcoming book, Don't Just Tell Them to Leave, a practical guide to helping a loved one leave a toxic or abusive relationship safely. You can join the waiting list through the link with this episode. And because somebody may need help now, not whenever I finish the book, I'm also putting a free first step safety resource on that page that you can use immediately. And if you're watching one of my clips instead of the full episode, look for that link with that clip too. So, great ones, as you go into your conversations this week, give yourself permission to be curious, but also give yourself permission to accept the answer. Give people grace for what they genuinely did not know. Pay attention to what they choose once they know more. And give yourself that same grace and accountability. Be seen. Name the pattern. Understand the why. Choose on purpose. And give yourself permission to live and be great. Understanding someone's programming gives you context. What they do with new information gives you evidence. And what you do with that evidence is where your discernment, your boundaries, your accountability, and your choices come in. Thank you, great ones, for listening to another episode of the Live and Be Great podcast. I hope this gave you something to think about, something to question, and maybe even a conversation you are ready to start. As always, don't forget to give yourself permission to not just live, but to live and be great.